Oh, thank you, Alexis.
Sorry, Alexis. Okay, real quick, I'm going to go through this again. In your buyer timeline email, you're going to include the inspection contingency deadline, HOA docs need to be received and reviewed by, the EMD due date, your loan application deadline, which is always how many days from ratification? 7. Yep. Appraisal deadline, which means you order the appraisal how many days after ratification? Very good, 15. And your close date. Ooh, these are buyer deadlines for buyer timeline deadlines. Everybody got that? Okay. Now, you're going to create an email out of this, or your transaction coordinator is going to create an email out of this. And this is like your guide. You stick with this. Online, you guys have in the chat a link to a buyer contract checklist. You can use this. I'm going to hand this to you guys. You can use this to help you with. And if you see at the heading of this, you already got yours? Okay. Did you get one? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. It shows you, it asks for some of that information. And this is great information for you guys to kind of keep track of. We use a program called OneNote, and it's a checklist where we can just check off constantly what's next so that all parties know what's happening at all times. You can use a version of this that's paper and keep it in a paper file if you're a paper person, or just use this as a guide of keeping yourself on track. This is, I have it in Word, so I can send it to you because you may not do things the same way that we do in the end. So you're more than welcome to edit this to how you do things, how you do your business, but it will help with keeping you track with things. Did you guys see that online? I'm assuming you did.
It says that the file is restricted.
Ariel, is it trying to go to like a Google access page or something? The Google Drive?
For mine personally, you're talking about what she put in the chat, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it says access to file restricted. It won't let me click on it.
Okay, Ariel will have to figure that part out. She stuck that in there. It's a Word document, and we can email it to you guys too. All right. Let's talk about the other people that are going to be working on this transaction. We talked about at the beginning who we will be in communication with from the get-go, out the gate, because they need the contract to get started on whatever they're doing. Everybody has a role. So your job is to kind of oversee what everybody's doing, or your transaction coordinator's job is to oversee what everybody's doing, make sure everybody's talking. Who are some other people that we may be communicating with during this transaction? Seller's agent. Yep, the listing agent. Who else? We have lender on here. Contractors, and who else? Why would we need a contractor? Because of the results of, exactly. So inspector. This is all, these are people on your team. Like, think about that. They're a part of your team. Your inspectors, your contractors. Who else? Coaches, yeah. Do they get copied on everything? Are you supposed to copy them?
No, but you send them everything early.
Okay.
Before you do it.
Okay. Okay. Think about the contingencies. So we talked about that home inspection contingency. What other person is a part of one of those contingencies?
The appraiser.
Appraiser. Tell me how you're involved with the appraiser as a buyer's agent. Or are you? Who orders the appraisal?
The lender.
The lender does. Does the listing agent have anything to do with the appraisal?
No.
No. Their only job is to take the call and schedule the appointment so that they can have access to the property. Sometimes the listing agent will be there. Sometimes they just give them access. Does the appraiser talk to the lender?
Yeah.
No, they do not. It is illegal for the lender to communicate with the appraiser. So they have created this middleman called an appraisal management company. So when an appraiser has submitted their appraisal, their final appraisal, they submit it to an appraisal management company, who then turns it over to the lender. The lender then reviews it and confirms that it's good by the underwriter, and then they'll either approve it or question it. What I tell people is, This deadline, well, this process takes 7 to 10 days from order. And I say, when does the appraisal get ordered?
Within 15 days.
Within 15 days, but after
Contingent.
inspection, that's right. So once we're through inspection contingency, we will immediately order the appraisal. Why does it take 7 to 10 days? What has to happen in that process of it being ordered? Well, the lender orders it, but that they don't pick up the phone and call the appraiser. They have to call
Middleman.
the middleman and appraisal management company, who then finds an appraiser who's available, who then goes out to the property when they have time, who then has to come back and gather all of their comps, write up their report, submit it to the lender or the appraisal management company, who sends it to the lender. They do what's called quality control to review it all, and then it gets back to us. Now, if the appraisal makes value or higher, does the listing agent see it? No. They do not ever need to see a copy of the appraisal unless it doesn't make value. So you don't have to show it to them. They typically won't even really ask. The only thing you need to let them know at some point during the transaction is that it made value. Why do we not need to tell them that? And why is sometimes it good not to tell them?
As it may have been higher and you put in a lower offer.
Exactly.
And you represent your buyer.
Exactly. So if you submitted a lower offer and the appraisal came in and now they're walking into a home with $25,000 in value, we don't want to tell the listing agent that. They're just going to feel bad and they feel like they didn't do their job. And so there's no reason for, and then the last thing she needs is for the seller to say, hey, do we know what the appraisal came in at? That's embarrassing. They don't want to know that either. So we don't have to show it to them. You just get to applaud your buyer to say, can you believe it? We are walking in this house with $25,000 in equity. That was said. It doesn't have to happen often. We had so much fraud with appraisals in like the 2008 period that they're really, really tight on their appraisals now. They really don't push much over value unless it's just blatantly there. So you'll typically see the appraisals come in within 5 to 10 of your list price, 5 to 10,000. So it's very rare you see a big jump on that, and if you did, you do the happy dance and you tell your client, this is awesome.
Yeah.
If you get something like that. Okay, so you have an appraiser on that team. Anybody else we can think of? Well, in the process of being under contract, we've moved through inspection. We've reviewed the HOA docs. The appraisal's been ordered. What is something else that a buyer needs to be doing during this time? Something that people actually really forget about.
Making sure they don't buy anything.
Yes, that is true.
Screw up approval. And I had somebody buy a car,
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
the worst.
the lender refused the loan.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Homeowners insurance agent. They need to start gathering their quotes for their homeowners insurance. Now, I always tell the buyers, first try to bundle. Go to who you are going through for your cars, especially first time buyers, because they're like, where do I even start? So I'd say try the bundle. We have a couple insurance agents here that bring us, they're like our preferred partners. You absolutely want to have their phone number in your phone. Nick with Goosehead, Richard with Farmers Insurance, Richard Martin with Farmers Insurance. Those are probably our two big ones here. If your client wants a recommendation, absolutely give them somebody. They will shop. Farmers can't shop the rate, but they have some great programs. Nick will shop rates for you. And I will say this, and he said this before, insurance is the only industry that there's no benefit to having allegiance to them. So once your client has signed up for their homeowners insurance and they've given what happens is they pick who they're going to choose, and then their insurance agent then talks to the lender and they work together. But there's no telling what's going to happen after that first year. Rates could be skyrocketed. You don't get any discount for loyalty. So you really want to stay in touch with your client, because 9 times out of 10, it's a good touch to as a follow-up for them to say, hey, let's just check in and check on your insurance. Let's see if we can get a lower rate. Because usually they can. Okay, homeowners insurance. Anybody else?
The home warranty, did you already say that?
No, that's one for sure. Now, I say, and I think who was here? Katie was here last week. I say go ahead and share their information with your client. Because here's the deal. A home warranty is only as good as and as loud as your voice is. And I feel like in a home warranty situation, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if we have a relationship with the home warranty rep and you have a home warranty for one of your buyers, you're going to have probably a better leg up on getting something taken care of faster than just a person who doesn't have any connection to a home warranty rep. Why would that be a very important relationship for them to have? What advantage is it for Katie to get involved with your client's problem?
It makes the client happy.
Makes the client happy, which then makes who happy? Who looks good?
We do.
We do. And the last thing a home warranty company wants is for them to come stand up here and say how awesome they are, and a realtor say, well, let me give you my advice on what happened with your company. So they want to look good and they want us to look good. Sometimes, I think Cinch does this, you'll get an email or a postcard that says your client utilized their home warranty. Well, that's the other great reason to check in with them. Say, hey, I just got notification you guys had to make a claim on your home warranty. Everything okay? Do you need anything? Just to check in. So they're a great resource for you as well, and they are also a part of your team. Anybody else? This is another one that we've recently developed relationships with here. Movers. I recently started talking to a couple moving companies because I was like, I wonder, since they're coming to our office now, if they'll offer discounts to our clients. And sure enough, they will. They have realtor referral programs. 5–10% discounts to clients, which that's a big deal. So Cavalier is one of our preferred movers. I think Stewart has been here before as a mover. Heroes is a veteran-owned moving company, and they're really good too. And I would go ahead and start a relationship, get a contact for those individuals because they have marketing materials that you can use that you could share with your client. So it could be part of your buyer consultation if you're doing like a binder with them. When you go over the whole process, maybe you have some of their information in that, or it could be a touch as we move through the timeline as well. Hey, I know you're thinking about movers. Now's the time. Here are 3 of my preferred. Feel free to reach out. And then maybe in that email, you also say they offer 5% discount. They offer 10% discount. So that kind of thing. I'll have to connect with them to find out exactly what it is. And their marketing materials, I don't know if they're personalized to you or if they'll just share them with you and what they have going on. Sometimes they do monthly specials too. So it really just depends on the situation, but they also are a big part of your team. All right, so we've moved through who makes up this team. John is an attorney with Vesta, and he's a very critical piece in this because if there's an issue with title, having an attorney versus just a title company is like money. He's going to really have the knowledge to really step in if there are any title issues. Does anybody know even what the title issue could be?
Different names on it.
Different names. What's that?
Encroachment.
Encroachment on a property, liens on the property that the seller didn't know about. They do a chain of title where they go back and see if there's any names on there that are not what's currently on the deed. And they find out that a cousin's come up and said, hey, no, my grandma gave me that property 5 years ago. So they deal with things like that. So it's all information that not just the title company, but having John as an attorney is a critical piece of that. So I highly recommend using Vesta for your closings. They're really amazing. All right. We talked about, I think this is a pretty good list we have going here of everybody that's a part of our team and everybody that would be a part of this timeline. Anybody have any questions online? No? Okay. All right, let's keep going. You filled out, if you used your timeline, the timeline sheet that you had. What page is it again?
19.3.
So does it break it down into sections? Okay, that's good. That's really good. Okay, so we talked about, they break it down into contract acceptance. I guess what's up here?
I just started.
That's good. That's really good. I highly recommend using that because that kind of gives you a visual of how the process works. And I also would share, I'm going to get it at break. I have this like roadmap that I use that kind of goes through the process. So when you do your buyer consult, it kind of goes alongside this email because it follows the timeline of now that we're under contract, what the next step is, so that they're prepared as well. Another thing you can do is some little short videos as we move through these contingencies. That's helpful in that contract to close process too, especially if you're working with a transaction coordinator, because sometimes you feel so removed from the situation because they are taking over that you're like, I don't want to lose touch with these people. I don't want them to think that I've like abandoned them. It would be great to, congratulations, we've moved through inspections. The next thing that we're going to do behind the scenes is get your appraisal order. You might hear from the lender on this, and if you don't, it's okay. Just let you know that we're taking care of that part. In the meantime, let's start working on your homeowner's insurance. In this email, you'll see a couple of recommendations. I suggest to always start with the people that you have your car with and go from there. Let me know if you have any questions. Now you could record that ahead of time and just send them that video at every next step. So your first contingency you've moved through, great. And then you might have another video that says, all right, we should be expecting the HOA documents any day now. Once we get those, you and I are going to review them. If you have any questions or things of concern, I'll point it out. You let me know if you have any questions. And if we feel good about moving forward, I will let the agent know. We have 3 days to respond. All right, that could be one. Appraisal. Well, we just got notification the appraisal has been ordered. Just wanted to let you know that process usually takes 7 to 10 days. So once that appraisal is reviewed and sent back to the lender, you all will get a copy of it. You all may get a copy of it before I do, but I just wanted to let you know that's where we're at, which is true. There's a good chance you may not ever see the appraisal. It goes to the buyer. The lender's not supposed to send it to you. You only will hear about it if there's an issue. Or if they're super excited and said, oh my gosh. And then close date. So that gets scheduled either by you or your TC, and they pick a date that works for them. Although if you have a TC that says, hey, do any of these dates work for you? You could do that too. I'm sorry, any of these times work for you. So they'll ask your schedule as well, but for the most part, you kind of just need to know on closing date, they pick the time. It takes about an hour for them to close. They can do it at our office, which is where 99% of the people go. Or if you have people that are out of town, they can do a mobile closing, or they can come to them at their place of business. So if you have a doctor who really just cannot get out of the hospital, they could come to him and meet him in the cafeteria, and the wife could meet him there or whatever. So there's a couple different ways to handle the actual close date. Now, what's one thing we have to remember to do before closing? Walkthrough. Very good. So at that point, you've already reviewed all the inspection receipts and you've matched it up with your repair request. You've confirmed that all the contractors that have been out there are legit. If you have a lot of work that was done under the house, what is a good option for your buyers who are very leery of all the things that need to be done? What could you do? Anybody online now?
Post-inspection.
What is it called?
Post-inspection.
A post-inspection. So it's like a re-inspection. So it's for a reduced fee, and most of them charged about 150 bucks. They can take that repair request so they know what was asked and go under the house or in the places that we aren't able to just visually see and check to make sure the work was done. Always a good option for your buyers who are a little bit leery of the process and how it works and trusting people. That way you're not responsible. They don't have to feel like they should know all of the ins and outs of a panel box, those kind of things. You usually schedule your walkthrough either the evening before closing or the morning of. So let's say you close at 12. You could do your walkthrough sometime around 11. You guys get to closing. It takes about 30 minutes. It's not an inspection time. It's not a where are we going to put what time. It's literally just to make sure that the repairs have been done. There's no scratches on the floors from the movers, those kind of things. Now, how does it work if there's a possession agreement in place where the seller gets to stay longer?
Rent back.
How does that work as far as your walkthrough? So the walkthrough still needs to take place. And if there are repairs that were needing to be done, that still needs to be checked and everything as if the close date is it. Because once we close, you have no recourse. Now, they did make a security deposit. Hopefully you wrote that into that possession agreement that the seller who's staying is paying, and I would say around $1,000 minimum for a security deposit in case something does go wrong as they move out. But as far as like repairs and things like that, always do that walkthrough before the actual close date, not at the end of the rent back. You'll do another walkthrough then, but that's just to focus on what might have been damaged during their move out. Now, let's say the HVAC goes out during that time that they're in the house. Who's responsible? You are. Your buyers who are now the owners, landlords, are responsible. So rent backs aren't always, it's very common now. It didn't, I'm telling you, 7 years ago, nobody was doing it. Now, because of how intense the market is, you see them a lot more. And for the most part, it's amicable and things are okay. I had one yesterday where my buyers closed in the morning in Jersey. They're in Jersey, the house is in Wingsburg. But I wasn't doing the walkthrough until yesterday evening because the movers were there all day and the cleaner came at the end of the day. And then I was coming right after the cleaning company. So my buyer got really nervous because they've had so many, or not so many, they had a bad transaction once in one of their moves where the movers scratched up the floor, but they'd already closed, so there was no recourse. They didn't do a walkthrough or they missed it on the walkthrough or something happened. So he was like, I don't want to close. Well, we couldn't push back the closing because when you do a mobile closing out of state, those docs have to come back to the title company and they can't fund it until they have everything. Well, the sellers were closing on their new property a day after that. So they needed those funds. So what we ended up doing was created an escrow agreement where they put $5,000 held back of their proceeds in case there was something wrong. The sellers were 100% okay with it because they're the ones that didn't think this through and felt bad about the inconvenience of us having to change everything. So what I did was I said, well, let's do this. Let me do the walkthrough right after the cleaners come out of the house. That way, if everything looks good tonight, I can send the title company an email tonight. So tomorrow morning, meaning today, when they're ready to disperse the funds, they can include that $5,000 in and we're done. So that's what we did. The house is impeccable. But those are the like little things you have to like think about in your timeline. It's very important. Does anybody have any questions on that online too? All right. If you filled out your timeline, this is going to be really helpful when you do create your table of dates that's going to be sent out. So using this as a guide of what is included in that table of dates or however you do that is really important. So you might want to take a picture of that because that really is helpful. I'll also take a picture of it. So I can send this in the group chat too. All right. Let's start thinking about some of the communication or documentation. Okay. I think it's because it sits idle for a while. That's why it does that. Ariel, is there like something I need to do to make it like go? Because it like froze up and I think it's because I didn't turn it. Oh, got it. Never mind. Got it. All right. Contract timeline. We've worked through that. We talked about the many hands it takes to complete it. First thing, my buyer needs. Okay. What do the buyers need to know? We talked about that. Who the important people are. Okay, this is So this is the timeline that they gave you guys too. If you see this online, this is very similar to what we just talked about. So inspector list to buyer, if they're going to choose the inspector, inform the listing agent of your inspection schedule. That's a very important piece of this, and I didn't really talk about that. Once you have that schedule, you have to let the listing agent know why.
Have to have access.
Have to have access, but you have a lockbox. But if the seller's living there and it's nap time for their 6-month-old, that may not work. Now, they really need to be lenient on this, because when you look at an inspector's schedule, they can do 3 inspections a day. So if we're in like a tight deadline, they gotta be flexible. So, but the sooner that you can give them notice, the better. Earnest money, inspections, appraisal due date. And it's not necessarily an appraisal due date, it's an appraisal order deadline. Final walkthrough. I think that's it. We've got everything up. All right, how you're going to communicate those deadlines. We talked about doing an email with like a table of dates, or your transaction coordinator communicating with your buyers some of that information. Now, as a buyer sees this, it might be so overwhelming to them. So they may call you and be like, I'm freaking out here. Like, what's important? What's first? What do I do first? So that's where you can say, hey, it's okay. I'm not going to let us miss any of these deadlines. Don't worry. I promise you, this is not on you. This is on me. I'm not going to let us miss any of these. The most important thing right now is just to get that earnest money. In the background, I'm going to get some times and availability for inspectors unless you want to choose an inspector, and we'll go from there. Great. That's all that I need to worry about. In the meantime, they need to know the lender's going to follow up with them with a list of documents that they need to get their loan process started. Now, 9 times out of 10, that loan application deadline was already met before they even went under contract. Because 9 times out of 10, they applied for the loan before they did a loan application before they even got pre-approved. Because nowadays, a lender does not like to give a pre-approval off of hearsay, off of just what they say they make, or what they say their monthly income is. They want to see bank statements. They want to see tax returns. They want to see pay stubs. So 9 times out of 10, this deadline's already been met once you go under contract. Is it a good idea just to still check in with the lender and ask? Absolutely. You're going to be in communication with your lender as much as possible. You'll give them lists of whoever that they want information for. I will say a great post-closing touch is a list of your preferred vendors. Now, as a new agent, you may not have that, but you can start building it. Your preferred plumber. And the best way to do it is get on the Facebook page, use the search field, and type in what it is you want. Electrician, plumber, roofer, somebody is recommending one. And that becomes your preferred list. If you want to take the time to call them and tell them who you are and introduce yourself, that's great too. But that's a way to build your list. That's a great way to do it. Someone have a question? No. Okay. You'll be in touch with the inspector and the listing agent. You'll be the one sending amendments. You'll let them know. Always be ahead of whatever questions you think they may ask. So while you're at the home inspection, you're going to go ahead and go over what that timeline looks like. Maybe not too much detail because they can't retain all of it, but let's just say this. All right, so here's what's going to happen next. We're going to get this report. We're both going to review it. In the report, he's going to identify the critical needs of what needs to be done, which means like safety concerns or defects that really need to be addressed. So when we get this list, we're going to go over it and we're going to create a repair request to submit to the seller. They then have 7 days to respond to us. And the reason why they take that much time is because they may need to get quotes for some of the things we've requested. Now, if after we get this report, we feel like we should probably also have our own quotes, we can do that as well. And I can help with that. So this is just like easing their mind so that they're not anxious about what's next, what do I do next? I saw that email with all those dates on it. I don't know how I'm going to make this work, because you're going to be with them every step of the way. They just need to have that affirmation. You'll let them know that once an amendment has been submitted and they've responded, they can respond in a couple ways. They may say, we'll do these repairs and not these. They may say, we don't want to deal with any of it, we'll just give you money. And that is why it's important to have your own quotes. Because if they look at that list and say, don't want to even deal with it, let's just give them $5,000. But you got quotes for some of those big ticket items and it was already 9 or 10, 5 isn't really going to cut it. So you're going to have to go back and say, well, according to these quotes we got, we're already at 10 for the roof and the HVAC repairs. So 5 isn't really going to make it happen. So that's why it's really important to have that information. So then you explain to them that they have that time to respond. Once we've ratified that or executed that repair request, meaning both parties have agreed to either repairs, money in lieu of repairs, money in some repairs, then we move forward. Now I'm going to tell you something, this is probably going to go over your head until you get put in this situation. During that negotiation period, they may want to throw out money instead of doing repairs. If that happens and you agree to that, put it on a separate amendment. Why would it be important to put the money on a separate amendment?
Because the lender may not approve for that money to be given to the buyer at closing.
Not just that, the lender doesn't need to see the repair request of all the things we asked for, of all the things they agreed to, and they're giving us money. So put your repair request of just all the repairs they're going to make and the amendment with just the money on a separate amendment. And that might just say something like seller to contribute $5,000 towards buyer's closing costs. Now, I keep throwing these things at you. So you get that. Do you get that? Does that make sense? For you, why you would put the two things separately if there's money and repairs involved? Okay. Because we don't want the lender going, I want the receipt for that. It's not their job. Let me handle that. You stick with the money. I'll stick with the repairs. So keep the repairs and the money separate. The other thing is, let's just say in the original contract, the seller's already agreed to give you $9,000 towards closing costs. And now the agent is offering you $5,000 more. Well, that's $5,000 more in closing cost assistance. So now we're at $14,000 in closing costs. Well, you as the agent need to know, is that even worth it for us? Because his closing costs are only $9,000. So we can't even use $5,000 more. Does that make sense? When you made that offer and the seller agreed to $9,000, it's probably because you knew the closing costs for your buyer were $9,000. The lenders told you your closing costs are typically 3% of your loan amount. Now, there's times where they can buy down a rate. They could pay for a home warranty, 1 or 2 years sometimes too. Lenders get kind of in on that. But 9 times out of 10, if you've already gotten closing cost assistance from a seller, you got to be careful when they're offering more after repairs. Because you don't know if you'll be able to lose it all. And the last thing you want to do is leave it on the table. You would never leave it on the table. What you would do is decrease the purchase price, but that means nothing. Decrease the purchase price. Let's say it was $14,000 now between the repairs they're going to make and the closing costs you're already getting. But you can only use 10. So that means there's $4,000 left to do what? Now maybe buying down a rate could work to pay a lower interest rate. But okay, so maybe that's done. So now you have $2,000 left. Well, $2,000 in liquid cash money is so important. $2,000 less on your loan amount means nothing. So you really want to make sure you take full advantage of that closing cost amount, but you might have to push back and say, we really can't use the $5,000. We really need these repairs done. Does that make sense? Okay. So keep the money and the requests, repairs separate. And then really, before you agree to any more closing cost contribution, talk to the lender. Because they're going to be the one to tell you that where you can max out at. All right. All right, let's see here. When I'm reminding the buyer. Oh, so there's hopefully in your buyer consultation, you had like a do's and don'ts of what to do and not to do when you're in the middle of purchasing a home. So in that like month period of, because usually closing is about 30 days, there's things that a buyer should not do. You said one of them, which was
Buy something.
Buy something. This is where they get so excited because Lowe's is offering a 6-month no interest credit card and I can get my refrigerator and my new dishwasher and all the things. No,
Furniture.
or furniture. No, don't do it. Wait until you sign those papers and go that day.
Yeah.
You can go do it that day. We literally, one year we bought a house, bought 2 cars the next day. But we had to wait till after closing because otherwise it could have messed everything. What gets messed up in that process?
Debt to ratio.
Loan, your debt to income ratio. So then all of a sudden, the lender sees this $20,000 loan on a car that wasn't there when you first got pre-approved. Well, what happens when your debt to income ratio is too high? What does that change? What could that change? The rate. And could that mean you may not qualify anymore? Absolutely. So that needs to be like, I call them the 10 commandments of do's and don'ts during the real estate transaction process. And that is high on the list. The other thing, they don't think about this either. My cousin asked me to co-sign for him on his car. No, not now. He can wait a month to buy that car. Co-sign it. Nope. This happened to me and this was horrible because it was an agent in our office too. And I thought this was probably the most horrible thing I've ever had happen in a real estate transaction, which since 2006, it's actually not that bad, but it still was devastating to me. I had a first-time buyer, bless her little heart, got through inspections. We were literally doing the final walkthrough the next day. And what lenders will do most of the time is do a soft pull of their credit, which means we are good to go. We are closing, but we're just going to do one last pull to make sure nothing's changed on their credit report. Soft pull means it doesn't affect their credit rating, nothing like that. Well, this sweet little thing, the sellers had already moved out too, by the way. Had a credit card and said she thought she had it set on automatic payments, but it was not, and it was 60 days late. Her credit dropped 40 points, and she no longer qualified to buy the house. I had to call this agent who's in our office, who now we have a very good relationship, but I think for a long time she was not happy with me. And I take some responsibility in that because I probably should have made it in stone, clarified to her, do not do these things. Now, could it have still happened because she thought it was on automatic payment? Yeah, very well could have. But that is like everything has to be paid on time. Don't close accounts. Don't pay off anything. That hurt us one year. We paid off a loan when we went to go buy a house and it hurt our credit because at the time you have this, like, let's say you had a $20,000 limit on a credit card. Well, that's like good. And your balance is only 500. Well, that's like awesome. It's not debt, but it just shows you have this credit. But when we close the account, we no longer had that credit. So it hurt us. So there's definitely things you have to go over in your buyer consultation that can affect your timeline and your clear to close and all the things. So make sure you're doing that in constant communication of what not to do. They saw the one king size bed that'll fit perfectly on that wall. Nope, not now. Wait until we close. We keep on our tabs on the deadlines. If you have a TC, she will help keep you on track. Julie's really good about sending me an email like the day before. Hey, just a reminder, your inspection deadline is tomorrow. So like, if I have, hopefully I know that. But if there was a question, she at least is reminding me too. That does help. We went over all of these things, communicating, negotiating, inspections. How do I touch base with the lender? So as the buyer's agent, you'll definitely make sure once we've gotten through inspection to go ahead and get that appraisal order. When you tell your client that, you're going to tell them, okay, so here we are. Congratulations, we're moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and let the lender know to order your appraisal. There's one of two things that are going to happen. They're just going to order it, or they're going to reach out to you for a credit card because sometimes lenders require for that to be paid up front. And it's happening a lot more now. So when you go over in your buyer consultation with the buyer, what they're paying out of pocket for before closing, this is one of those things that you need to make sure they're prepared for. So they're going to pay for 3 things out of pocket. Their home inspection, which they will never get reimbursed for, which is about $400 to $500. Their earnest money deposit, which is typically about 1% of the contract price. That does go towards your closing. If you don't move through those contingencies, you get that back. And the third is the appraisal, and that can range anywhere from $450 to $650. So those are the things that your buyer needs to know they're going to come out of pocket with before closing. The one thing that does apply to their closing, that $1,500 will be applied towards their final number of what they need to bring to closing. That's the good part. So you'll go ahead and order it, or you'll give the lender the green light to order it. Then they may hear from the lender at that point.
If I may say, make sure that if you have that credit going from the seller to the buyer for closing costs, anything that they paid up front, like the appraisal or the credit report, that monies can be used towards that money they paid up front. So if you're running out of closing costs, they can put it towards the appraisal, the credit report.
That they already paid for.
Yes.
Good to know. I did not know that.
That's not a closing, yeah.
Does that make sense? Let me go through that again with people online. So, what's your name again? Anne used to own a title company. So this is legit information, I promise you. She said, remember we talked about the closing cost assistance the sellers offered. And we're kind of maxed out because now we asked for some repairs and they want to give us the money. So when that closing statement comes out, they're going to line item all of the things that add up to that closing cost number. And one of those things could be the appraisal. Well, you already paid for the appraisal out of pocket. She's saying that can be on there as closing costs and you just get reimbursed for it by the lender. That comes
So
with
it won't be a line item, it'll be POC.
Right.
Pay outside of closing.
Right.
But they can still dot everything they're in it, and those two items the money can go towards that as well.
That's great. Good to know. Okay. When do I touch base with the lending company or listing agent? So your communication with the listing agent during this time, she may call to kind of ask where we're at with financing. If you want to be proactive, you could just reach out and say, hey, appraisal's been ordered. Just let me know if you haven't heard anything from the appraiser within the next 3 or 4 days. Because once an appraisal is ordered, they should get a call, the listing agent should get a call about access within 3 or 4 days. So if you let the listing agent know it's been ordered, they can be on the lookout. And if it hasn't been scheduled, they can come back to you and say, hey, I haven't heard anything. And then you can reach out to the lender and say, hey, the appraiser has not reached out to the listing agent. I don't want this to delay our closing. So that can be a touch that you can have with the listing agent. When you get a clear to close, the lender sometimes will make that touch, but you can as well. Obviously, when you schedule things like the walkthrough or the inspection, those will be touches you'll have with the listing agent as well. Pretty much it. You always just want to be in communication with them because you never know when you're going to do another transaction with them. So you just want to be like, I just reached out. This agent that I just closed this house with, there's multiple offers. And I was like, listen, Rebecca, we have to have this house. So you just tell me what it's going to take to make it work. And we paid way over the list price, and the appraisal came in at like 20,000 less in the end. But my buyers wanted this house so bad. And so my thing was, I'm just going to over communicate with her. From the minute it went, okay, well, let me backtrack. She had another listing in this community that we even missed out on seeing because she only gave it like 24 hours because they were an older couple and they were like done with all showings. So we didn't even get an appointment. So I told her, if you ever get anything else in this neighborhood, let me know. Well, lo and behold, she texted me like 2 weeks later. She's like, hey, I think I'm going to get another house in this neighborhood. I said, well, tell me about it. She said, same floor plan. I said, great. What's it look like? She's like, I'm going to meet with them next week, but I'll keep you posted. I followed up with her the week after that. It was literally for 3 months before this listing went active, but I stayed in touch with her. And I just explained a little bit each time about who these buyers were, why it was so important that they get this house. Their daughter is a police officer. She lives in the area. They gave me permission to say these things. They wrote a fabulous letter, which if you wanted to say no to letters, you can say no to letters, but I promise you it works 90% of the time. And they will tell you that. And they said, this is why we won. Really, I mean, they really shouldn't tell me that, but the offers were so similar. She said, if you can do this, then they can do this. So I'm like, okay, we'll do it. So communication with the listing agent is so key. And guess what? We're done. We closed. And so I sent her this text yesterday. I said, walkthrough went perfectly. Please let the Allsup's know they did an amazing job. We've been given the title company authority to release the escrow amount. Thank you again for trusting me through this process. I absolutely love working with you and would love to do it again soon. That's a great just touch, and on a good note with them. Even if you had a rocky road during the transaction, because you just never know when you might need their next listing or whatever. Her response, thank you so much, Christy. You have been such a delight to work with. I hope we have the opportunity to do it again soon. So that was like, click, it's over, and we ended on a good note. It was easy. I mean, it was a great transaction too. But just to end it that way. All right. Document points. We have here. All right, let's think about the documentation you're going to need to represent the buyer. We'll have the repair request amendment, their response to the repair request, any amendments involved with that. If the property doesn't appraise, what are our options?
Buyer can make a difference.
What else?
We're gonna negotiate the sales price.
Yep. And if they won't agree to reducing the price, they can terminate.
Yeah.
They can terminate. The buyer can terminate. If they won't agree to reduce the sales price or the buyer cannot come up with a difference, the buyer has the right to terminate at that point. You never want to get to that. What option as an agent, both listing and buyer's agent, and actually you have to kind of be on the same page with this, do you have with the appraiser?
Provide other comps.
It's called an appraisal rebuttal. And let's just say as your buyer, you have a buyer's agent. If for some reason the appraisal comes in low, you can do an appraisal rebuttal. Now, why as a buyer's agent would you do that?
The buyer wants the house.
The buyer wants the house. If you feel like it's justifiable, like you did the comps and they were there, absolutely. The listing agent will do their part to try to make it happen too, because you at this point want the same thing. You want it to close, your buyers want it to close. Let's see if the lender can help us out here. I will also say 90% of the time, an appraiser will not change their opinion of value. There's one loan product that is better than any loan product when it comes to changing the appraisal of the value of a property, and that's a VA loan. They are so good with their veterans. I had this happen once where the appraisal came in $13,000 lower than the list price, but we knew it should have been at the list price. It was high, but 13, it could have made 13 with our comps too. The listing agent was like, they can't go any lower. They're going to have to bring money to the table. So this deal will fall apart if this doesn't happen. Well, the veteran wanted the property. So she called the VA and she said, I want this. You guys have to understand, like, this is going to kill the deal if you keep it at this item of value. And they said, okay, we'll change it. The only loan product that they're willing to do that for. It's just a very different loan. So that would be one thing that you would have paperwork wise. Let's see. I think that's about it on the buyer side. The seller side is much more simple. Oh gosh.
I think maybe the page that was prior didn't have a lot on it, maybe. Did it?
Oh, let me see if Ariel has another one. Why don't we take a little break and we'll do the seller side after this? Is that cool?
Yeah.
10:30?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go get some more paper. I'll take this off. And then I'm also going to go get that timeline. I'm going to print this timeline so you guys can have that too. This little roadmap that we use.
Yeah, and I may have to leave. My mother's not doing well.
Okay.
I was gonna share with the agents there too, that what she was talking about the person with being late on their payment. I also had an agent that had the property listed for one day. My buyer had the pre-approval letter, everything was ready to go to closing, and 1 week before closing, they bought a car.
Oh.
The other agent lost his mind, and they actually wanted me to buy the car.
What?
Let it go to closing. and then sell them back the car.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, I was talking to the broker and I was like, I'm not buying this person's car.
That is crazy.
But I still will show.
Right, it takes time for it to come off.
But it's sold in one day, so the listing agent was really ticked off. It had nothing to do with it. I had told these people, they were not first-time home buyers. They knew better. But I guess they didn't think that soft pull was gonna be done, so that's.
Maybe that's what they told them when they went to buy the car.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, just gonna.
Right, right. It's not gonna affect your credit.
Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely be on top of the first-time home buyers, because they'll be the ones that will make a ripple, if just out of not knowing about it any better, because they'll be looking at furniture
Oh,
and
yeah.
all kinds of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, if you're an agent and you're brand new and you're showing properties to buyers, the way you can know that they're ready to convert is the minute they start placing furniture in the house.
Yep.
Saying, oh, my big screen TV would look great here, or my sofa or my king size bed would fit perfect. Then you know you're ready to try to convert them into a buyer, not a potential buyer. And you may even want to say, hey, let's go back to that other house that you wanted to remeasure, because you know they're going to pick this other one instead, just to implement to them more security that they really want that house too. You're not tricking them. You're just, they're new. They don't know how to make the decision. And sometimes they just need a little bit of a push to say, this is the one. And it may not be there tomorrow. So how bad do you want the house?
Right. Right in the offer, I'm writing it like today.
So you've got a contract on it?
Yeah, and it's for like,
A lot?
Yeah.
Is it in-
it's in, how do you, I don't know how to pronounce it. Every time I say it, I mess it up. Powhatan? Powhatan.
Yeah, that's way here, girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Powhatan.
Yeah.
It's one of the representatives listing,
Yeah.
the $1.7 million.
Oh my gosh.
Girl, you can't help me.
What?
Yeah. How did you get the buyer?
Open house.
Open house.
Oh my God.
And you know what he said? No one reached out. That was his first time at open house. He said no one followed up with him. And I was following up with him. And that's how I got it. Yeah.
That is so awesome.
So
Oh
you see,
my.
the one thing that slipped and went wrong, you just got that. God is good.
Yep.
And I know you were worried about that. That was.
Cause he never, he left the open house, I'm just gonna talk to God about it.
Yeah, he sure did.
What'd he say?
I'm gonna just talk to God about it.
Yeah, because
He
he
said
said
that?
it was
Yeah.
another agent, but then he was like, he has a sign with them, and he's like, he's leaning more towards me. He said he's gonna pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, me too.
Good answer. Good answer. Oh my gosh, that's
I'm so
awesome.
proud of you. That is
Yeah.
great.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's why I was asking you the questions about the home warranty thing.
Yeah.
Are they offering one, the seller?
Yeah, they said they were.
The house was built in 2020.
They said that the warranty should come paid.
Oh, okay, so that's a different type. That's a builder warranty.
Yes, that's exactly what they asked about.
Okay. So there should be paperwork, but who's the builder? You need to find that out. You can look it up in the tax record and see who the seller was in 2023.
And then I can like reach out to them myself.
Right, I would do that just to be
Okay.
proactive for them to see what the process is for a transferable warranty. Because it's usually it's called a 210 warranty, 2 years on like appliances and parts, and 10-year structural warranty. So like anything structural, and then sometimes there's like 5 years on the HVAC. So you want to know all of those things and
Yeah.
confirm that it's transferable too. Who's the listing agent? Oh, you said Brad's the listing agent?
That's Brad and see.
Oh, yeah, let's see.
Are they
She's a good
Keller
agent.
Williams agents?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're our biggest
So they
team
are?
here.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you did an open house for them? That is awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of open houses for them and getting clients through just doing open houses, following up with clients. I got one in New York, that's coming. So yeah, but this one was like, whoa. I was a little
And
late.
so he said, in the end, so you followed up with him and he said, I do want to write an offer on this house?
I bet you were shaking like a little lady.
Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
get to Staples, did they let you print it?
no,
It's with a library.
but I sent him a different, buyer's agreement. We had to do it completely different. So, but he signed it, so yeah, we're in.
I'm so proud of you, that's great.
Thank you, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, is someone gonna help you write the offer?
Yeah, we can help him for trees,
Okay.
so she's been helping me. And, yes, I'm learning a lot, so when we're going over stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually knowing stuff, this is awesome.
Great. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's awesome. All right, let me go ask Ariel for another flip chart. That's amazing.
I'm serious. At 12:30, I'll be at the 24 hours. I have not got.
What? Why?
I work.
What do you do? A nurse?
No, I work overnight and then I just started another part-time job and then I had this. I started a travel agency.
What
So,
in the
at
world?
like
You
12
cannot do that.
Oh, no, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep.
Okay.
I'm going to sleep.
Poor
They
thing.
all was like right after each other. So if I'd have stayed home, I wouldn't have
Right.
to work.
Right.
So I had to
Good for you.
put my
That was
career
smart.
first.
I'm so proud of you.
I had to put my career first. Their laptop was there, and I didn't even use it.
That's really the only thing I needed now, which is that home. Pretty much. And how to word it in the contract for the as is, but other than that. Girl.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Did Lindsay know?
Yes, I've been communicating with her. So, and the house has been sitting for like almost 40 something days.
I remember that.
So that's
Then
good.
at the-
Are you what are you gonna do? Did you pull comps? Is it like price tag?
Yeah, but when I did a comp, it came up to like 1.5.
Okay.
So
What does he want to offer? Did he say?
1.6.
Okay, so that's not bad. That's not like low balling. That's any means.
Oh, yeah.
Who does that? The buyer? That's what he does for a living. This is crazy. That's so exciting. That's awesome.
And he knows I'm new.
He does.
Yeah. He knows. He knows. He knows I'm new. I mean, like, and then I'm like, well, let me talk to my coach about it. Like, we're very open, and so that's awesome because
And he
this
trusts
type of
us.
deal, like,
For sure.
I
And
need,
that's
I have to
Pray about it.
Right.
Here's the good thing, when you get to inspections, not much of it. So that's gonna be contingency.
He's
hopefully.
buying it as is. Don't tell anybody this stuff.
Why?
If we're recording, is it muted?
Don't tell anybody.
Why would he do that?
Soon.
He wants to do that, okay.
I mean, the house is 2020, the house was built 2023.
Right, I get it, that makes sense. That's awesome, and is
Yeah.
it cash? So
Girl,
quick
stop
closing.
playing.
What?
I didn't know it was cash.
Now, you have to get a proof of funds from him. Got that already?
Stop playing.
So really okay, so let's look at this, what does that remove as far as contingency?
The inspection. When he doesn't want to appraise it.
Right, at cash, you don't have to do one,
He don't need the loan.
right, so is it in a neighborhood?
No, so there's no agent.
No.
So there's
no.
literally,
He wants a quick close.
there's no contingency, so you literally are ready off.
Yeah, but that's right.
Absolutely, confidential.
Yeah, so literally, you just work through that, no contingency. It's a very strong offer, know that. To a listing agent, it's a very strong offer.
Yeah, we went up because we were, and I was like, maybe we could, talk to him, and he's like, okay, I got it, that was the highest I could get, but that's what I feel. I mean, they would ask me.
That's amazing,
So,
especially with a quick close.
and I know the motivation of the sellers.
Is it vacant?
No.
Okay, so they still living there? They can get out in the timeline he needs it by.
That's what I talked to them too.
So what
This
happened?
could be like the highlight of your career.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like we could make rookie of the year
Literally one transaction.
with that transaction.
Literally, that's exactly what she.
And it's such a testimony to doing open houses too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
it
I've been
is.
doing it. I mean, I'll do like 3. I'll do 2,
That's amazing.
you know, and some of them are really slow, but I just keep doing it. I
Yeah.
just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then some of them be really good, you know, but that
That's
one, and
amazing.
that one, only 2 people came.
Literally.
Yeah, because
And
only
I
takes one.
another, and that was it.
Only takes one.
yeah.
So.
I'm glad I was there with you to experience it. That is amazing.
Oh.
That would be.
Oh, you were? Oh, that's awesome.
my
So you
God.
saw their interaction and how she
Absolutely.
talked to them? Okay, good. And they had a good rapport during the,
Absolutely.
oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, because back in the day, an open house was like so boring. If it was a house that just nobody should, it didn't matter whether you put balloons up and signs everywhere and nobody came and you're just sitting there for 3 hours of your life. And now with the cameras in the houses, you just get, like they were saying in the other class, don't fall asleep.
I'm gonna go real quick and ask about
That.
a flip chart real quick. Let me go do that. I forgot I need to do that.
But yeah, that is, because you were so upset about that listing and I, it wasn't
Yeah,
dated.
yeah.
And I was
And
telling you,
did I tell you that they ended up like,
ghosting you.
yeah, so I did, reach out to them and then they said, something medical came up.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
so they were gonna go a different route about the house.
Oh, keep it
Yeah.
probably.
So I was like, okay, you know.
Well, it
but I
wasn't you then.
Yeah, but that felt better just knowing that they just did, you know, because everything went so good during
Yeah.
the listing.
Yeah, we
You
were
know?
talking about it. And
I
I
mean,
was
it was
saying, don't
great.
worry about it because
Yeah.
maybe they're just cleaning up or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, and you know, I was talking to to my team at Christy and Co. about you. And I said, we were talking about not having the listing agreement dated, and I said, this really nice young lady, the listing agreement's not dated, and they're ghosting her now, and she's really upset about it. And I was gonna tell you, everybody in the office was saying, don't worry about that one, no, because 3 yeses will come right after it.
Yeah.
So I was really praying about everything working out for you, but.
Well.
And you know, it's just like what she was talking about. When you're dealing with other agents, they're your friends too. You know, it's not like you're in competition with other agents, you know, don't
Yeah.
feel like you are because you can make a lot of friends in this business. And like, remember the class, I don't think she was at the class where they were talking about do seminars and stuff, and have the lender be paid for everything, or the title company be paid for everything, because you're gonna bring them there. Let them have the opportunity to pre-approve somebody, do that soft pull. You're not wasting your time with a buyer.
Right.
You know? But with you getting a dang on $1 million, I would do $1 million open house. Remember, my license isn't even back yet. I'm looking every freaking day for it.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. That is just,
Yes, I'm
unbelievable.
amazed.
Thanks, guys.
I can't wait to share
and
that.
it's showing
with
because
Kristen.
you're doing the work. Like that's why it's happening.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna do it on my group chat with my team and say.
Cause even with
You
the,
got it.
like, I'm just trying to think of different things to do, like open houses, so I did, the raffle ticket,
Yeah,
you know, so just trying to switch it up, you know?
yeah, I agree.
So what you gotta do, just, they said, you know, keep walking that one seat, and I'll keep that one seat.
Ariel, can you come in here? I don't know how to keep up in here.
1.7.
That is just unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah, I'm still shocked. I can't believe.
I mean, so, you know, a lot of things can go wrong, but the
Yeah.
fact that you just talk through all those contingencies that will be removed, like that's huge, you know?
Yeah.
I'm here. I can't get this thing to stay up here.
Okay, I'll show you. It's a trick.
Good.
Ready? Go team, go. And then you turn this one in. So what? Have it down there.
And
And
then
then
we shared it with the whole team. That you got a $1.7 million house from an open house.
You pushed it, and that's it. Oh, you don't need to click. Okay,
No.
just save it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for it to click. Okay.
Yay!
Thank you, thank you. All right, now we're moving on to the seller contract to close. This is a lot less headache for sure. Seller contract to close. Did forget one thing I left on the printer. Okay. So we are going to go through the seller side of the transaction. We did the buyer side. Now let's talk about what are important dates for a seller to know. Really, you can send them the same timeline email because it's just good for them to be aware. As far as deadlines on their part, the really most important thing they need to do is submit their lender contact information to the title company to order a payoff if there's a loan on the property. So that's really the most important deadline for them. So if you did, oh, I have this, if you didn't see this side, a seller contract to close one of these, you got that. Did you get the seller side? Did you get the seller side? Okay, so there's a seller contract checklist as well. And in that timeline email, you're still going to put the important dates. It will include maybe the date we were ratified, date we went ratified, if you know it, the date inspections have been scheduled. They can be aware of an HOA deadline, which is really a review deadline. So if there's HOA docs that need to be ordered, they need to jump on that. Because this will get reviewed and removed as soon as the documents are in. Now, as far as who orders the seller documents or the resale package, it's called a resale certificate or a resale package. You can do it, or they can do it. And what that means is you're going to find out who the contact information or the management company information is for their HOA. And hopefully when you took the listing, you had that, you got that information. Wait, turn this off. Sorry guys online, I turned this off. Okay, so now you know who that HOA is. You're going to reach out to them and see what the process is for ordering the resale package. Typically, the management companies have you go online through a third party and order the package. Now, if you order it, there's a way to set it up so that it sends a link to the seller to pay for it. But you need to make sure you tell your seller that you've ordered it and they're going to get an email to pay for it, because otherwise they don't start the timeline of getting that paperwork together until it's been paid for. And this is such a pain in the butt, you guys. It's such a crock. This technically they have 10, for the most part, it'll say on their website, 10 business days to get docs to sell. Once order is received, paid for. Once order.
That's a long time.
I know. And you can pay a rush fee. And that rush fee is usually around 200 bucks.
Oh my God.
So it's ridiculous. So that's why as soon as we ratify, if you're in an HOA, go ahead and get this ball started. You be proactive, you do it. They may say, oh, I know the vice president of the HOA, he lives down the street from us. Great. Because they probably don't have all this craziness for their association because it's probably run by the neighborhood. So they probably have a website you go to, you submit a form, and then they'll get the paperwork to you.
Can the listing agent already have ordered that?
So this is seller contract to close, so you are the listing agent.
Okay.
But yes, you can. Here's the problem in that. When you fill out that paperwork, it asks you for the buyer's information. But you can always put unknown. That's how I do it.
Well,
I
to
just,
be determined.
I mean, they aren't going to do anything about it. It just helps to have their contact information. So when they do become the owners, they have a contact information for these people. But they can figure that out in the end. I mean, they're going to get more information down the road with them. So you can, for sure, order this ahead of time. Because guess what? The sooner you order this and the sooner you get this back, the sooner this contingency gets removed. I had a buyer back out of a contract off of this deadline just because they didn't like the neighborhood after all. That's a crappy way to get out of a contract. I was the buyer's agent and I was like, I was so mad at them. But we had already moved through inspections. This was the only thing left and financing, but they were going to qualify. So it is a way out because I mean, nobody can tell you whether you agree or don't agree with the paperwork. So you could say, oh, I have to cut my grass every 2 weeks. I want out. It's your way out. It sucks. And just so you know, this cannot be removed from the contract as a contingency. You know, when the craziness of the market and everybody's waiving everything, this is not something that can be waived. You cannot waive this contract deadline. All right, so that would be important for a seller to be on top of. Actually you, but you're going to let them know this is the process. And then they're going to work with title to get their loan payoff order. They can't order it. The title company has to order it. Loan payoff meaning for the current home that's for sale. When they get an email from Qualia, you're going to obviously tell them, hey, you're going to get an email from Qualia. It's a portal that we use to keep everything in secure, like for secure purposes. That is actually part of the questions that they're asked as the seller is their loan information, the loan number, all that. You never take this information. Never. That's for them to work with the title company on. They should never be asked of any kind of information. They need to be aware of that. You will never be asked for any personal information from an email from me or the title company. It's all going to be through Qualia. There's way too much wire fraud and just fraud going on where people get screwed with their money when it comes to closing. Qualia. Okay, so then in the background, they're working through that. They need to know in their email, obviously, the close date. That's important for them. And really, that's the only other deadline that they need to be aware of. You're going to go over with them how many contingencies are in the contract. Obviously, 3 are built in, could be a 4th if there's an HOA. So we're going to work together to make sure we move through all these. You aren't going to have to do much. It's going to be on me, but I'll communicate with you along the way to say where we're at with some of these things. So seller side is a lot easier. Am I missing anything? You know this.
Termite well and septic.
Good point.
Yeah.
That is another thing that they'll have to order. When do we order the termite well and septic?
After we know the buyer's ready to go, I mean.
After we move through inspection contingency, for sure. Because the termite well and septic letter cannot be more than 30 days old. Put this, no more than 30 days prior to closing. So if you have a pushed out close date, you wait to order that.
Another thing for the buyer and or seller survey, whether they want one,
Yep.
ordering one. And I suggest when you're listing a property, try to get an existing survey, get an existing title policy that gives the buyer a discount on their title insurance.
Yep, it does for sure. Yeah, that's a good one for sure. So you actually will be the ones ordering this unless they have services with some of these people. So they might have a termite plan contract. So you ask them this when you take the listing. In fact, it's really important so that they understand that they pay for this and how much it's going to cost. So when you give them a net sheet to show them what their proceeds are going to be, you got to make sure you include all these things too. Termite, depending on who you use, is about 35 to 100. Well is about 100 to 150. Because on a well, it's not an inspection. Understand that. When you order the well report, it's literally just a report of the bacteria in the water. And actually, a seller can do it themselves. They just take a sample and bring it down to the company that does the sample for you. So it's not an inspection of the well. So let the sellers know that's not what takes place. The septic will be whatever's written in the contract. On a contract, you'll see they have options of what the buyer wants inspected. Most often, it's box 1 and 2 are checked where they want a visual of it and a probing of the distribution box and it pumped. So those are the things that typically take place. If you're on the buyer side, you want to check those boxes so that the seller's doing that. When the septic company comes out, you can schedule these. They may have services with these companies. So ask them who they want to use, and if not, you use your people for those. And you can schedule all of this after we get through inspections. Anybody have any questions on that? Anybody online have questions on that? Okay. What we just did. All right, so what does the seller need during the contract to close period? Really just peace of mind. There's nothing that they physically are going to get from you. There's nothing that there's a deadline that they have to meet other than ordering the HOA docs and you ordering these. You will literally do these for them most likely, but they're going to have to help you with either they have relationships here, they know the person here, or you take care of it yourself. And in that process, you're just communicating with them. You're going to let them know the inspection schedule because they're going to have to be out of the house. I tell people, don't be there. It's about 2 to 3 hours. You need to be gone, depending on the size of the home. Now this one, oh, you're not inspections anyway, so it doesn't matter. You just kind of want to stay ahead of things, any questions that they may ask. I mean, seller side is just a lot easier. It's so much easier. You'll obviously have to reach out to your seller to let them know when the appraisal is scheduled because the appraisal will need to come inside. So you'll get the call from the appraiser as the listing agent and you'll schedule that with your seller. It'll take about 30 minutes max that they'll be in the property, not much at all, and they can stay. So on the appraisal appointment, they can stay for that. So what are they notified? Sorry. What are they notified of? So you notify your seller of when inspections are, of when termite well and septic is, of when the appraisal has been scheduled. And then finally, when the walkthrough is scheduled.
What was the first one?
Inspections. Those are the things that are important for the seller to be aware of.
Can I take a picture of that one?
Absolutely. Guys online, I'll take a picture of this when we're done. I don't know that we're totally done on this, but this is helpful. All right, so we talked about what it would mean if the appraisal came in low. We would work with the buyer's agent to submit comps to try to get a rebuttal done. As the listing agent, you're going to mark it as pending. Oh, that's a big one for you. You have to mark your listing as pending within, I'm in 2 different MLSs, so I have to remember, I think it's 48 hours in Richmond. 48, and it might be business, no, it's not. I think Williamsburg is business days and Richmond is not. But just to be safe, 48 hours with it of going executed or ratified. So one of the questions they're going to ask you when you pend your listing is what the ratification date was. Well, they'll know whether, yeah. And you can't lie about it because they could audit you and ask for a copy of the contract. So you got to make sure you mark it pending within 48 hours. I think that's the only other thing that you as the agent on the admin side. Mark pending. So those on the admin side, you'll mark it as pending and you'll order your HOA docs. Possibly you already did that. Other communication points, communicating the deadlines, which hopefully will be in an email. Communication of the contract to the other parties. So the other parties would be the buyer's agent, and the title company. You really don't have any communication as the listing agent and the lender. You can, and because you want to have the communication open with the lender so that when there's a question on something, has the appraisal been ordered, whatever, that you're taking care of that. So when you send your intro email out, you're going to send 2 different emails. First email with the timeline of dates goes to your seller and the title company. The second email can go to the buyer's agent and the lender. And maybe title, you can include title on that too. The title one can see it twice. The reason why, do you know why you would send these separate? The buyer's agent doesn't need to know your seller's contact information. So go ahead and send that first email to your seller and to the title company with either the timeline email or congratulations, we're under contract. Here's a copy of the contract. The second email with the same dates will go to the buyer's agent, the lender, and the title company. All right, determine what's the best way to communicate with your seller. Obviously, you've already done that because you've listed this property. So either they want you to be emailed, called, or text. So you just giving them updates is so critical. I like have it in my calendar to do it on Mondays. My seller connections are Mondays with sellers. So I know every Monday, whether we're active or under contract, I'm going to give them some sort of update on Monday and they can expect it. Where we are in the process. I just got off the phone with the lender. Everything's looking good. They're sending it to underwriting this week. All of those things you could say. All right. All right. In this section here, you guys have in your book, well, I'm going to tell me this. It says there's some consideration points on the screen to think about as you plot the documentation points on your timeline. Add a D next to the items that require to be sent through. To who and from is this document going? Oh. I don't understand that. We're just gonna skip that part. That doesn't really make sense. Okay, so we talked about this timeline. Now I want to show you guys in commands. Ooh, I don't know if I can. In commands, there's
Christy, you can show them in command. You can log on the computer.
Okay.
And it'll show screen.
Okay, I'll do that. I want to show you guys how I work through opportunities, because if you guys haven't done a transaction before, I want to show you how you can use command to work through some of these checklists. You can actually get on in command and create checklists.
This computer is a little slow.
Okay, thanks. And this is really helpful for you. And the smart plans really help you stay on task afterwards too. So I'm going to show you, I'll give you an example of a opportunity. Opportunities are like your buyer and seller transactions. I'm trying to remember my password. Oh, yes. All right, you guys see my screen? Awesome. Okay, so if you go down, can everybody see this online too? Great.
Yes,
okay.
You can see it.
Okay, cool. If you go down to opportunities, it's going to pull up what your listings, buyers, and leases are. So if I scroll down to the bottom, I'm just going to pick one of these because this will be helpful for you. Let's do this one. When you click on the transaction, it's going to pull up all the information that you've actually put in about the transaction itself. You have two ways to look at this. You can see a timeline by clicking timeline, and it shows you all the activity of what you've done for that transaction, like what you've sent, or someone else might have reviewed a file or something like that. Or you can go to tasks for this buyer, and it tells me all of these things. Now, again, I created these checklists in here so that I can check them off and be like accountable to what's been done. This is all in the under contract phase. You can see there is 14 tasks in the under contract phase. You can actually put your tasks, create tasks in each phase, and you personalize this to however you want it. So you might have had some tasks while they were active buyers, once they're under contract, and then you move them to closing, and you may have another checklist that you apply to that. So you create the checklist, and then you apply the checklist to the phase of the contract that you want it for. So this is in addition to this checklist or instead of. I don't use that because I use this and I like to see it in OneNote, which is a program. But some people may not like it. And this, I don't use a paper version. It's still like on my computer. So you can do it this way. You can do it that way. I'm just showing you your options to kind of stay on task, which could be helpful for you. Does anybody have any questions on that? This is probably good where you can, let's see what checklist I have in here. So I have all different checklists in here under contract when it's an escrow, when you go through inspections, appraisal, financing, clear to close. They very well could be checklists that everybody has. I don't even know because I had an assistant, so she probably set all that up. Or it's like the template and it could be part of what they offer no matter what. But it's a good way to get introduced to command, and I think it's a really important piece of keeping up with your timelines. So you saw where I went. I went to opportunities. I went up to tasks, and then you can scroll through the different phases as you move through the contract period. This is what I do. I typically in that, Maria's going to hate that I say this because it's not really a slower season, but in the more downtime or like you're in a different season, and I say like that's November, December, this is where I like clean up all my checklists, clean up my buyer listing presentation, like all of the maintenance stuff that you need to do. So it might be a good time for you guys to look at those checklists, start those checklists, go to a class on command and like focus in on that. It's good to help you stay on track for sure. Okay. Any questions or ahas on that? Guys, we're moving. We're doing good. Okay. Next is referrals and reviews. So we've gone through the buyer checklist, buyer closing checklist. We've gone through the seller closing checklist. This next thing we're going to talk about is reviews and referrals. This is a huge part of this process, like while you're under contract. So has anybody heard of the promise script? Is it John? John. Okay. So John's a big proponent of this. It's constantly asking for checking in, how we're doing, have we delivered on the promises that we've made throughout the entire transaction. And you literally are asking for referrals during that time. And I say, focus on the highs. So during this process, you're touching base with your seller and the appraisal's in and it made value. And you heard that from the buyer's agent. You're going to say, congratulations. We are moving forward. The only thing left is the loan approval. They're going to send that loan through underwriting and we should have a clear to close within the next day or two. While I have you on the phone, how are we doing? Just checking in. Have we delivered and made on the promises that we had made? Great. Do you know of anyone right now that you could refer to us that's looking to buy or sell? This is a great time to do that while they're on a high. You're going to do it throughout the transaction process, especially at closing too. This is where you literally want to get, I'm thinking of 1 or 2 people that you might go to church with, school, sports, your kids, preschool, whatever, that you just heard of anybody, that kind of thing. You kind of need to get help them visualize who that person is. We would love to work with buyers. We love to work with sellers, even those that are thinking a year from now. If you can think of anyone, we would be so honored if you could recommend them to us. That's it. So you've made a promise to them at the listing appointment or at the buyer consultation on the delivery of your services. And throughout the transaction, you're going to check in to see how that's going, if you've lived up to those promises that you've made. All right. When we talked about the seller's deals, just keeping ahead of anything that could go wrong, talking about what could be proactive in anything that you need to foresee as an issue. Now, on the seller side, your job is to just really communicate with the lender. Make sure the buyer submitted all the documents that they need, make sure that they ordered the appraisal, when are they sending the file through underwriting. Those are all questions that you can ask a lender. In fact, I'm going to write some of those so you guys can have that as well. Lender questions. Has appraisal been ordered? Has the file been submitted to underwriting? When do you expect a clear to close? It's referred to as a CTC, clear to close. When expected, those are all important questions to ask the lender. Has the appraisal been ordered? Has the file been submitted to underwriting? When do you expect a clear to close? Now, the other parts of the appraisal being ordered is, when is it due back by? Because remember, a lender cannot talk to an appraiser, but they can look in the system and tell you when the appraisal is due back to them by, which tells you, okay, well, they have this window of 4 days now that they got to give me a call because they got to do the appraisal. So you could add that to your question. When is it due back by? Okay. All right, I'm pretty sure we've covered everything now on the seller side. People online, I'll take a picture of this slide because I think we've kind of covered everything there. All right, going back to referrals and reviews. Sorry, referral business, we want these people to be your go-to for the rest of their real estate transactions ever. Does anyone know how often a person buys a house, what the statistics said?
5 to 10 years.
It was 5 to 10, and now it's 6 to 8. So it's they've tightened up that timeline, and I think with COVID, people's ideas of what the perfect house would has also changed, People that were in the city wanted to be in the rural area. People that needed 1 office may need 2 now because everybody works from home. So there's different needs now due to COVID, which has changed a lot, and how often people are buying. And because the rates, that affected rates. So people were eager to go ahead and make a move, not necessarily because they had to, because the rates were so low. All right, so we want the repeat business because we want them to be with us through the next transaction. We talked a little bit about how you can touch them after the transaction's over. We said you could send them your referral list of contractors that you use. If it's the seller side, what would you do? I mean, clearly you had a conversation with them when you had the listing appointment of where they're going. And so either you're helping them purchase something, or if they're moving out of the area, you've connected them with a realtor who can make those connections for them. So when you're on the listing appointment, you've already talked to the seller about what's next. So you're either helping them with that what's next, whether it's a move, a downsize, a rental because they're building, you know, all of those things, you know that. Because you want to just line up that next piece of business. Referral business. Obviously, when you're in a certain people group, how old are you? So people your age are buying houses right now. So you're going to have a friend that's going to use you, who's going to talk to her friend who's going to use you. So you want to be like top of mind with that group. So think about who you're in community with, church, whatever it is, a gardening group, whatever it is, you want to be in that group and be the top of mind realtor in that group. So help one and then feed on the rest. That's how you work it. Client reviews. We'll talk a little bit about that too. This has changed a lot. Post-closing follow-up. We said a little bit about what we can do here. There's another way that you can follow up too with your clients, and that's through smart plans. Have you guys talked about smart plans at all? Okay, good. So in Command, we have smart plans that you can assign to a buyer or a seller once they've closed. Now, you can pay attention to how often they've been reviewed, meaning people are using, how many touches there are in it, who created it. See, Keller Williams creates a lot of these. And another person that does good ones is Marty Miller. He's a really good author of smart plans too. And then what the touch is. So an 8x8 for a new contact means it's 8 touches for 8 weeks. A biweekly neighborhood nurture means you have their physical address, and this is going to send them an email of what the comps are in their neighborhood. So it's biweekly, which means they're going to get it twice a month. I don't know what the second touch is, because one is just the comps in the community. I don't know what the second one is, but that's like automatic. So you got to pay attention, because this would be great if this is great for someone you meet at an open house, because you want to stay top of mind. And I'm sure after you've done an open house, you probably are texting them as soon as they leave, following up with them the next day. I know Nick is another good one who's really good at how he captures leads off of open houses. So that's another important way to stay in touch, is just to be on it for sure. If it's your seller, you're going to figure out how to touch them. If they're moving out of state, it may be a different type of touch, you know? I mean, for a long time, we tried to do pie deliveries for each of our out-of-state sellers. And that just got really expensive and hard to like figure out what pie company was in the area that could deliver and all that. So we really just put them on like a birthday plan, where if you have their birthday, it sends them an automatic email. We added to that plan a physical card we send them. And this year I did frosty tags. And so I bought them like at the end of last year. And it's those, you know, those like, it's a frosty tag where you take it to Wendy's, and it's good for 1 free junior frosty. But they can use it every day. I mean, they can use it all the time. So that they get in their birthday card, and I physically like snail mail birthday cards. People love that. I've done Starbucks gift cards, but those got really expensive too. And you just don't know if people are actually using them. Not everybody loves Starbucks. So think of something that would be good. I think it's worth it to put everybody on a birthday plan. If you can, and the best way to do that is just look on Facebook. You can get their birthdays that way too. Great touches, great. The post-closing follow-up. Another thing for us that we do with post-closing is we ask them a getting to know you form they fill out. And it's usually after the listing appointment and after the buyer consultation, so that we know what they love, their favorite restaurants, the names of their dogs, their anniversary with their spouse, anything like that. It's on that form. And so then when it's time to give them a call or a shout out, we can look at that form and be like, oh, they just had their dog die. We have a totally different plan that we do when a dog dies. We send them a frame that has a place for them to attach the collar of the dog. I mean, we do life milestone moments big, because for you to remember them or acknowledge that, it's huge. They won't forget those kind of things. So babies, marriages, deaths, we try to, deaths of pets and deaths of like a family member. We'll do either wind chimes or a lily, that kind of thing. It depends on the individual, but it's like consistent with everything. So if you have them on some of these post-closing plans, you can then look at that info sheet to say, oh gosh, they love this. I'm going to just be in their area tomorrow. I'm going to bring them a coffee of that kind because I know that that's what he loves. So your post-closing follow-up plans, they have those in here as well, and you would attach that or assign that to your buyer that's now a homeowner. Follow-up is a huge part of your business, huge part. Reviews. So we've learned over the years, we were a little overboard with this. So I'd send out an email and it was we're so appreciative of you. Thank you so much for supporting us. Would you be willing to give us a review? You have 3 options. You can go to realtor.com, Google, Zillow, or Facebook. 4. And in the end, I was like, why am I trying to get reviews on all these platforms? Where do people search the most for anything? Google. So I personally think Google is really the most important place to get your referrals or your reviews from. So when you go to close a property and you represent the seller, realtor.com sends you an email that says, get a review for this closing. Congratulations. They automatically send it to you. So you literally can go in, I think, and just forward that email to your seller and they can give you a review on realtor.com. That's super easy. It takes a little bit of effort to find where the link is to your profile on Google and send that to them. Now, when I say profile, make sure you have a business profile set up as a realtor on Google, and that's who they're reviewing. So when they search your name, realtor, that's who they're giving you a review for. You want to build that presence and that review piece to your career. I know a realtor who has been in the business like 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And she had more reviews than I did. And I was like, no. So I went like on this mad campaign to try to get reviews and made a goal, like in my monthly newsletter said, we are at 42 and I need to be at 50 by the end of the year. So you can make a big effort of doing that too. And it doesn't just have to be a buyer or seller. Who else did we list as parties to our transaction as our team? Contractors, home inspectors, title company, lenders, they can give you reviews also. And you do the same for them. So get your reviews from those people as well. Anybody have any questions on that? I would suggest to create an email template that has the link to your Google review, to your Google where they can review, and you just send that email to them after every closing. All right, ahas. We really are, I think, well, let's see. Let me make sure here. Asking for a reward. We'll talk about promise fit. Talk about good profiles. When you set up your campaign, one of the things they talked about is what's important. Let's see. What was important for follow-up with a buyer? What are some things that they need to know now that they're homeowners? Names of contractors. What else would be beneficial for a buyer? Home insurance check-in. Yep, that's a great touch. Once a year, a home insurance check-in. What else?
Maintenance on the home.
Maintenance, seasonal maintenance. It's clean your gutter season. It's, hey, HVAC tune-up season. I've partnered with my preferred HVAC guy, and he's offering a $129 special to get your HVAC service for the spring or the fall. It's a great touch. Item of value, it's a great touch. What else? If they're new to the area, they're going to need doctors. What'd you say?
I was saying like things that's going on.
Know what's going on in the community. Or maybe just a website where you found is williamsburgfamilies.com. You guys have kids, I highly suggest subscribing to this newsletter because you're going to hear more about what's going on in our community from this place and any other place in our community. Mom groups that they may want to be a part of now that they're in this new community. Turn them on to the neighborhood Facebook page if there is one for a community. So these are all great touches. I highly recommend 1 week after closing to give them a call. How did it go? How did moving go? Do you need anything? you notice anything after you moved in, missing or otherwise, that I need to follow up with the listing agent about? That first call, the 1 week after, that shows them that, okay, they didn't just forget about us now that we've signed the paperwork. That's important. And then really just following up. I know, did you guys talk about DTD2 yet? Where you have 2 letters a week that you're calling and 1 texting letter. I'd really stick to that schedule. I am not as huge of a fan as for the smart plans. The only smart plans that I keep my people on is birthday and the monthly neighborhood nurture, which tells them the activity in their neighborhood. And this is only if their address is in there. And it automatically sends it to them. So I don't need to do anything. There's the only 2 touches that I keep my people on because I do DTD2. And if you're trying to do this and DTD2, then you're like overlapping who's calling when and how, and because these smart plans have calls of touches of calls too. So if you're trying to keep it systemized, it's just easier to follow DTD2. But you got to stick to something. So either you do it the smart plan way with the touches and the phone calls and the emails and the text, or you do DTD2. But you got to do something for the follow-up. This is like me needing to practice what I preach because I'm terrible with the follow-up. I just get busy and it's a terrible excuse. And then I just say, okay, we're good. And you just hope that they're good until you get a call, a panic call, or find out that they posted on Facebook looking for the name of a roofer. And I'm like, we just closed on that house 3 months ago. Why didn't you come to me? Well, I obviously didn't portray to them enough that I'm a knowledgeable enough resource for them still at this point. So you got to pay attention to those kind of things too. Then you really realize, oh crap, I didn't do my job on that part. Follow up is big. All right, now the ahas. Any ahas from the buyer contract to close that was enlightening or new that you learned? Was it helpful to have that timeline together of the emails that you can send out or the timeline? Okay. So takeaways would be to put some of those things in motion. I would say to create a template email for both the buyer and seller side, for sure. That's going to be important to do. Reviews, just pick one, stick with Google or realtor.com on your sell sides too. So you can still build up some presence on realtor.com. But on the list side, it's real easy because they just send you an email once it's closed to say, hey, get a review for this property now. And then keep following up with them. I mean, I'll call them and say, yeah, I'll do it. And then they don't do it. I mean, the best time to do it is literally to send it as they've gotten in their car to go to the new house. Because they're on a high and they're not going to have a lot of time in the next week to be sitting down. And if it's an email, if it's a text link to Google, it just pops up stars, ratings, give me a little blurb about how we did. That's the best way to do it. To the realtor, you want to keep a good relationship with that realtor I talked about. I think it's very important to follow up with them as well after a transaction's over. What's a great touch for them? Thank you card. Thank you. I would love to work together. That text that I just sent her, I'd love to work together again with you. You just never know. When you want to win in a multiple offer situation and they remember that smooth transaction that you guys had together. So keep them as part of your post-closing follow-up as well. All right, how are you guys feeling about contract to close? Good? Does anybody have any questions online? Okay. I think we're good. I think you're supposed to do this. Does everybody get this? I don't know if I'm in here. You should just add me in here. Okay, you can see if I am. I don't know for sure. I might be. It would be awesome. And if anybody's online still, I can't even see if there is anybody. If you guys have any questions too, I will put up my information. Or I can just tell you it's cbacon@kw.com. That's my email address if you guys have any questions about anything. And if you can fill out that evaluation, that would be awesome. I think it's helpful. Oh, wait, was it up there and I missed it? Do you guys still need it up there? I stopped sharing my screen, didn't I? I was just, I guess, nosy and wanted to see who is still online.
Still here.
Okay, thank you. You guys can see that. There you go. People online, were you able to pull up those checklists?
Yes, and that's the KW Cares evaluation.
Oh, whoops, wrong one. Okay, let's go back here. Let's see. Wait,
One up.
one up. That one? There we go. Sorry. Was my name in there? Okay. My office is around the back. It's on the back side, the back wall. If you guys have any questions or ever need anything, feel free to come by.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you
Great
are,
job.
thank
Great
you,
job.
thank you. If you have, you want to come to our golf tournament? I really
Are
need
you
this
still
rain.
having it?
I just really need this rain to stop. I don't know. I'm about to get on. It is.
I volunteered for the.
Oh, you did. And actually, I needed to talk to you about that
Oh,
because
man. Tell me I can't do it.
so the lender, who's the beverage sponsor, he wants all 3 cards.
What?
Yeah, which he paid for it, so he really gets to have all 3. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna put you somewhere else. Now, I honestly don't know if we're gonna have the tournament because he told me yesterday we're good, but now I'm like looking and it's been raining all day. And it's not supposed to rain tomorrow.
Like the grown people.
Right. So I really just want to do it and get over with at this point, to be honest. But I don't know. We'll see. So what time did I have you coming? Okay. You can do whatever. I can have you at a hole. That we have like a couple holes where people can sit at and you would sit with somebody else.
You just like gathering balls or something?
No, because they're contest holes. So if they like get a hole in one, they win this patio set. So you're kind of like the check for if they get it. Yeah. So when they come through, and it could be like a station where there's drinks and snacks too, so they can get those.
Hey, keep us posted.
Yeah.
When's the closing date?
I don't know.
I'm so proud of you.
Okay.
I don't want to rush out because my mom.
No, you're good. We're done. We're done. Guys online, do you guys need anything else from me?
I think we're all set. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys.
Thanks
Have
so
a
much.
great day. I'm gonna stop. I guess turn this off if you guys are good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.